So what do you think has made records be a source of media that has stood the test of time? Welcome back to Connections in Cowlitz. I'm Katie Keaton, your Southwest Washington realtor.
And I'm Gabby Graves, your hometown lender with Synergy One Lending.
And we are so excited because today we are connecting with Tyler Wilson. He is the owner of Stash Records here on Commerce Avenue, which is exactly where we are today because everything cool happens on Commerce.
Happens downtown.
Yeah. So we're getting down with Tyler today. He's going to tell us all about Stash Records.
Oh. I should have thought this out ahead of time.
You were good.
Yeah, welcome to my first podcast ever. Stash Records, if you are not already familiar, we are an independent, old school, new and used record shop, downtown Longview on Commerce Avenue.
You're across from the Columbia Theater, or no, from Stageworks.
Stageworks.
Across from Stageworks, yep.
Yep, right next door to Broadway Gallery.
Nice.
Yeah. And we're excited to talk with Tyler today because we don't know him. So we're also connecting with Tyler today.
We are.
Most of the time, we know our guests. We do things outside of the podcast with our guests, but this is truly about connection today with Tyler. So things we have learned about him since the pre-interview. He's not technically from Longview. He grew up in Raymond, kind of in Vancouver as well, but you've been here about 5 years, you said? 4 years?
4 years we've had the shop open here. My wife is a Longview native. That's kind of how we settled on Longview as the place to kind of root down our business.
Yeah. Happy wife, happy life.
Right.
Always.
Still working on making the move personally, based in Vancouver for the time being. But
That's so interesting that you decided to start the record store here in Longview. Have you been happy with that decision?
I've actually been very happy with it. It affords us a lot of very unique opportunities that we probably would not see in Vancouver for a number of reasons, whether that's cost or competition, concentration, that sort of thing.
True.
It's probably saturated down there.
Right.
It has gotten a little bit more saturated, especially with Portland being right across the river.
True.
And the COVID years resulted in a lot of new record shops opening up.
Interesting.
Kind of
A
strange
new
side effect.
hobby that people took on.
A lot of us were collecting and finding things that we could do from home, and
makes
record
sense.
collecting had a very big boom.
That actually does not surprise me because collecting also took off in our homes with football cards.
Yes, it
so
does.
not records, but football cards.
Oh, yeah.
But yes,
Yeah,
I
we
see
did talk about that.
Yes.
Probably the nostalgia factor too. Like everyone was
absolutely.
just like looking for something nice to do. I always say my nostalgia factor, like I know that I'm stressed. I know that I'm in a bad headspace because I start listening to 90s country music because I do not like country music
Shania
generally.
Twain's gonna make everybody feel
Literally,
better.
or some just classic Tim McGraw. And when I reach for my Apple Music and I go to the 90s countries playlist, I have to stop and think,
unwell.
oh my gosh, I need to get my life together.
The nostalgia trip can be dangerous at times, but it is fun.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you see a lot of that when people are browsing through. They hit on a record and are transported back in time.
Yes.
We hear the stories and the the memories and all of that goes with it, and that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And as a parent, there's music that I purposely have my kids listen to. 90s music, actually. I had my son listen to the Spice Girls the other day, not gonna lie.
Oh my gosh,
So-
Hannah and I listened to the Spice Girls at the gym the other day, and we were living our best life.
Yes, so there's just like certain things I think to myself, my kids need to grow up listening to this.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't say the Spice Girls is top 10, but it made its way around.
Like the Beatles or something.
Yes, absolutely. Tina Turner, just like,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So people are passionate about music. Owning a record store, you obviously have an even bigger passion for music. Is it something that was always a goal of yours? Is it something you grew up thinking, I want to be involved in music some way with my job? I want to own a record store. Like, where did the idea for that come from?
Yeah, that has gone back quite a ways. The first like serious consideration of it, serious is subjective, I guess, but when I was, I don't know, probably 15 years old, my stepdad gave me his record collection, rock and roll records from the 70s,
cool.
and I had a great friend in high school, still my best friend to this day, shared that hobby from his dad, actually. And so we would spend most of our high school days cutting class and going thrifting for vinyl and just misbehaving generally.
But were your dads proud when you come home with a cool new record?
Not immediately,
Okay.
but years later, yeah, I would like to think so, yes. It was touch and go there for a minute, but we kind of always daydreamed of opening a shop together.
Awesome.
And that was, going back to being 16, 17 years old, the stuff you think about when you're a kid.
Connections in Cowlitz is sponsored by locally owned and operated ServPro of Longview, Kelso, the #1 residential and commercial cleanup company in the United States. They help with smoke and fire damage, water cleanup, vandalism cleanup, mold remediation, and more. And remember, as a homeowner, you get final say on who is inside your home. Local home, local company, ServPro of Longview, Kelso. Thank you.
Also, a big thank you to Mattress Superstore, another locally owned and operated business. If you want to get comfortable, you need to get into the Mattress Superstore with their location on Vandercook Way or their new factory outlet store off of West Cowlitz Way. They deliver, they set up, and they always pay the sales tax. Thank you to the Mattress Superstore. Yeah.
That is so cool.
And then we went and got real jobs, and I worked grocery for 10 years, and then I went back to school for a little bit. I worked with the Housing Authority in Vancouver.
Oh, interesting.
I immediately before we opened the shop, I was working for OPEIU, labor union,
Oh, okay.
one of the local offices in Vancouver, and decided, like many other people, when COVID hit, that the way things are going, I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my days doing a job that I don't have a great deal of enthusiasm for.
Yeah, life's too short.
Exactly.
We have to go for our dreams.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
No,
a little
I did
corny,
the
but
same
it
thing.
really
No,
is
it's not
what
true.
it was.
We both,
Yes.
I was working full time at the radio station, and when COVID happened, I had my real estate license for a while, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I think that was a lot of people. It was like, you know
great
what?
time for a
I'm gonna
quarter life
do it.
crisis.
Yes.
It really was.
It was,
really
yeah.
So we were lucky to be in that age range.
I was
We
in
could
the
just
same
switch it up.
situation, yeah. And after COVID and having to stay at home for a little while with the kids, I thought, and I was ready to go back to work. The kids were all at school, and I thought, I really want to go back to work, but I do not want to go back to what I was doing before. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So, same situation.
Yeah. Well, I guess that makes sense why there were not just you that opened a record store during COVID.
Definitely not. And I should actually also say my friend, he did not go without a record store. We very much went our own paths for that, but he ended up working for and then acquiring the oldest record store in Vancouver.
Wow.
So he
Very
now
cool.
operates Everybody's Music.
And what
We're
is
holding
the
down
name of that
Longview.
record store so we can shout him out too?
Everybody's Music.
Oh, Everybody's
Yep,
Music.
yep.
Okay.
And where's it out in Vancouver?
That is 1801 D Street, I believe, in downtown Vancouver.
Cool, okay.
He's going to be mad if I get that wrong, but I think it's right.
Okay.
We'll look up the address and insert it in
right.
this region right here.
Will we?
Right, but
Katie will.
Wayne will. Thanks, Wayne. We dropped a phone.
That was
it's
mine.
Fine.
No big deal.
Yes, like you said, he's holding down the Vancouver market, and you are up here in Longview.
That is
which
so neat.
I think it's a much needed store here in Longview, and it's nice that
It
it's right
is.
on Commerce. Did you get an influx of people from the beginning? Did you feel that there was an excitement, or did it take more of a slow build?
it kind of halfway in between, truthfully. We didn't really know what we were doing in terms of advertising, and I knew records, and I had been independently selling records for years, but I didn't really know how to run all of the facets of a business.
Yeah.
And so
All the
a lot
different
of
hats.
exactly. So a lot of our first customers and a lot of our best customers found us just, driving around Commerce. It's such a great spot for thrifting for music. If you're a collector, there's so many little, shops and spots to dig on Commerce already. And then they stumble upon us, and we definitely try to have something for every market, the people that are down to do the thrifting as well. But we're a lot more geared towards actual, record collectors and people who are seeking to cross big things off their list.
Okay.
Things you're not going to see at a thrift store. You can come to Longview, kill a whole afternoon thrifting, and then come, whatever.
To stash records, to get more of your specialty
Exactly.
items. Okay.
Especially because thrifting really is just such a treasure hunt. And so sometimes it can be, kind of depressing. You're
Right.
like, okay,
Exhausting.
I didn't find anything I liked and I had fun. I enjoyed the journey, but like I wanted to get something today.
Yes, so
So
true.
then you can end at stash records and be like, okay, I found something.
And that it's doubly so for a record collector, because it used to be when I first started collecting in early 2000s, you could go to Goodwill and find awesome titles for $1.
Yes.
And stacks of them. And now it's $3 for old, Lawrence Welk and Guy Lombardo records that no one will ever listen to.
Maybe someone.
Maybe someone is having their grandma over for a visit and they want her to have a nice time, and I get that. I sincerely apologize to all the Lawrence Welk fans that I may have offended, but
They're probably not listening.
No, they're probably not listening.
I don't think they're up on the podcast market. Probably not. But it can be very disappointing as a record collector to strike out thrifting, but thrifting and collecting are there. You cannot separate the two cultures. There's
That's where the high comes from. If
Absolutely.
it were easy to find, just
So
like
true.
fishing, if it were easy to do, they'd call it catching, that's just how
I
it's all in the hunt.
was out garage sailing, sourcing stuff for the shop last weekend, and found a $150 record for $1. And I'm going to be riding that for weeks. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are you keeping that or are you selling it?
The almost offensive thing is I found more than one expensive one. So I'm keeping one and I'm selling the rest.
Good for you. That's
But
the best of both worlds.
It was, generally speaking, I wish these people had brought the records into my shop, though, because
Right.
we do try to pay a very, very competitive price for them. And they could have gotten a lot more than $1 for those records.
Okay, so if people have record collections that
Don't-
they're looking to...
Don't put it in a garage sale. Don't ever put it in a garage
Okay,
sale.
go to Stash Records.
Yeah.
Tyler's going to hook you up and
Yeah.
see what those... Maybe buy some from you.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
that's-
Antique Roadshow.
It kind of is. And Antique Roadshow does often tell people that, sorry, you've been carrying around junk in your basement for 40 years.
That'd be fun.
That
We should
happens
go.
too. But I had a guy come in last week with a crate of records. He told me he had taken to 2 shops already, got offers of $190 and $220 on the crate of records. I offered him $450, and we settled on $200 in cash and $600 in store credit, or $450 in store. It was $650 total.
Well,
Wow.
that's something
So
too
it's
yeah, because there is a difference too in thrift store prices
Right.
versus, record shop prices when the expectation is set that it's like these are bucket list records for people. These are
Yes.
things that we have curated the selection for you. So when you come in, you're going to find something good and in good quality. And I'm sure
Something
you
special.
do that too. So
Absolutely, and we carry new releases. We've, every Friday got a good stack of whatever is, new in the music world.
yeah.
Can people custom order records from you?
Absolutely, if we
Okay.
can get it from our distributors, if it's available, come talk to us. I would much rather you special order it through us, and if there is, if you run into some kind of problem, you're not dealing with, Amazon customer service and,
Right.
Target and Walmart who don't know or care or love records. They're going to throw them in a box and it's, sometimes it gets there good and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
If you get a record from us and there's a problem, it goes back to my distributor. You get a replacement or you get your money back. It's the guarantee of handling something in person before you see it is just a nice added benefit. Plus, you get to support a business that is actually in your community.
Right.
Providing, hopefully, I like to think, some value for the community and
Yeah,
that's
instead
what
of
this
just
is all
funneling that
about.
money out
Absolutely.
somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think has made records be a source of media that has stood the test of time? Like, what do you think is special about records as opposed to some of the other types of media that have really fallen out and have never had that resurgence?
I think the defining thing with records that people keep coming back to is they're a tactile experience. It's not, we've gotten so used to pushing a button on our phone to get whatever. And this is, you are handling the music. It's a piece of history. You're handling it's at this point, most of them, or not most of them, but a lot of them that we're dealing with are actual antiques. This is, to get a first press of your favorite record as it would have been,
Right.
as, the artist might have had in their collection or as somebody would have bought off the record store shelf in, 1967 or whatever. That's a little bit of a trip on its own.
Yeah.
But then, your record collection is also your art collection for a lot of people. This is something you're, putting up on a shelf and showing off, breaking out when company comes over. What better way to have some drinks with friends than to put on the perfect soundtrack for that, put on something that they've never heard that fits that mood perfectly.
Interesting. Yes. I've also always heard that record or vinyl has better sound quality, that's why people like to listen to it. Is that true?
It depends a lot. There is truth to it, but it is a little bit more complex than that too.
Okay.
So the first aspect of that is digital versus analog recording. Pre-1980s, most things were recorded analog. So anything you're hearing digitized has been compressed. It's not the original format.
Okay.
So for a pure audio file, you want an original reel-to-reel tape or a record, which are the two closest to the master source that you can get. The part that is usually left out of that conversation is if you don't have a sound system that can take advantage of that, it's up to a certain point you're not getting the benefit of that.
That makes sense.
So I always encourage people to, everyone has to start somewhere, and I'm never going to, dog somebody for their system for starting where they start. But you don't want a suitcase player forever.
Okay.
You want a well-built turntable and a well-built receiver and well-built speakers to make these records that you're collecting and spending your resources on to make them what they should be or what they can be.
Sound amazing.
Exactly.
So that opens up another question for me too, because, like you said, a lot of the vinyls records that you're dealing with are antiques. And I think when the resurgence first happened, most of the record players were also antiques.
True.
But now obviously at this point you have new releases of music coming out on vinyl, but then also you have, you can go buy a brand new record player.
You could buy them from Walmart.
Right.
You can buy really fancy ones that are, you can buy these really modern looking ones that are like $1,000. And I've always wondered, are those even good for the records? Do people need to worry about that?
If you're spending $1,000 on a turntable, you're not. It's not going to hurt your records.
Right.
Oh, that's almost a guarantee.
I meant
But you're
more so like the
probably
one at
also-
Target.
It's the one at Target probably isn't going to hurt your records, but it like I said, it's definitely not going to bring out the best in them.
Okay.
So are the antique players the best to get the best experience?
My favorite turntables are the ones built in the mid 70s to the early 80s.
Okay.
Okay.
The 70s in particular were like an arms race for audio equipment. Everyone
Okay.
was trying to build the biggest, baddest, most powerful, clearest sounding. And this was before the 80s when all of those craft brands sold off to major corporations that swapped everything out for cheap parts, capitalized on the Marantz name, for instance. A 70s Marantz receiver and an 80s Marantz receiver are
totally different,
completely different units. They're in a completely different stratosphere. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, if given the option, I love restored mid-tier to high-end 70s equipment.
Okay.
It's not easy to source for everybody, and that's where it gets to be hard. But there are great shops dealing in that. We occasionally see equipment. It's not our forte.
Okay. I was gonna ask that.
I love recommending places like Mississippi Records in Portland. They bring great old equipment back to life. They restore all of our gear that needs restoring before we sell it or before we use it. They've serviced most of the gear in my house.
Yeah.
So there's shops doing it, and they are very complimentary to what we do. And I apologize if I am forgetting someone locally or I'm not aware of someone locally doing this. If there's someone in Cowlitz County doing this, please come see me because obviously.
That would probably make it more convenient for him.
Right,
so
right.
if you're doing that.
Let's make each other's lives easy. But I love the 70s gear, generally speaking.
Interesting.
I am all Pioneer and Thorin's stuff at home, personally. That is not, necessarily going to be attainable for a high school kid starting on a budget.
Right.
But we all got to start somewhere, and that's why if you got to start with a suitcase player.
What is the suitcase player? I can see it in my mind. I know what you're talking about. But are those a newer thing or are they an older thing?
They've actually been around since the 50s.
Are they
it's
boom
basically
boxes for record players?
Kind of.
Okay. The Chromebook of record
it's
players.
The Chromebook of record players. Is that true?
Kind of.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good analogy.
Yes.
I'm guessing. I think he'll tell us.
Sadly, I am probably not even tech savvy enough to fully flesh that out. I'm all analog personally.
Oh, I'm barely there.
But no, so suitcase player is more of a generalized term, and it's probably not the perfect appropriate term for them. But they look like little suitcases, briefcases, pop open, built-in speakers.
They're super cute.
They are super cute.
So cute.
They're adorable, but they have a little platter that is too small for your records, and so when that overhangs, they generally don't have a perfect suspension system. The weights can be imbalanced, and so your nice flat records or records with minor imperfections, which there's really no such thing as a perfectly mint record. There's going to be maybe a little wave or whatever, and that gets accentued on a turntable that isn't fully supported.
Although I would say I think that's another reason why records have stood the test of time or vinyls have. I keep saying I'm using them interchangeably. Am I so
Is there
bad?
a difference?
I think I should say vinyl.
Records and vinyl, but never vinyls.
Oh. Okay.
Everybody gets one. It's okay.
Now I know. Records, that can have an S.
Yep.
Vinyl.
There you go.
No vinyls.
Vinyl is the plural.
Okay. We're not. Okay.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like geese. No, it's not.
No.
It's like moose. It's like deer.
There we go. Exactly.
It's like moose and deer, not
It's
geese.
exactly.
That was the exact opposite. Okay, I got it sorted out now. Okay, great. I feel more confident going into the rest of this conversation now that I've asked that question.
If you know only that walking into a record store, you're going to be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I did have, I was going to say, I feel like that's another reason they've stood the test of time is because they're actually pretty hardy compared to other, like a CD.
True.
It's going to get scratched all over, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, you're like rubbing it on your shirt.
Yeah, where records are a little more hardy.
Yes.
Records, if you treat them right, they're very durable.
I'm just ready for VHSs to become the next cool thing.
Oh, are you kidding? They are. We sell VHS all the time.
Okay, I have a bunch of VHSs and I have an old VCR and it's like okay, but are they making new VCRs yet?
No.
We're
not there yet.
There's
Are we
no
gonna be
such
there in
thing
10
as
years?
a great VCR.
Okay.
That's the ultimate goal, if you're looking for your high-end VCR, is something that is manufactured late enough and not cheaply enough that it has a USB connection, because then you can use it with your
USB connection.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
bringing it all the way into the
future.
2000s.
Guys, is that a business plan for us? Do we go in together and make like new VCRs for people?
Honestly, yes.
Quality VCRs that have USB and HDMI plugs.
Yeah. Wayne, are you in?
Did I say I meant HDMI?
You guys, seriously, we would be rich.
We'd be
Seriously,
rich.
we would be rich.
I don't know though.
The 90s are back in such a big
think-
way. Everyone would want one.
I think we have 10 years. What'd you say?
Before
I think we have a year before
people are
someone
obsessed
listens
with
to this and
VHSs.
takes
Oh,
it.
it's already
already
happened. It's
starting?
before it is fully mainstreamed, but
Someone help us. We need a manufacturer.
If you like 80s horror movies, the days of being able to find those for $1 or $2, those were over 5-10 years ago.
I am talking to my investors today.
Seriously,
I'm not even kidding.
I just love physical media. I hate that everything is digital media and we're buying things that don't actually exist. They can disappear, like you said, the horror movies, or it's like, okay, they took this episode out of this TV show, or, this was slightly changed, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, if I had the box set of whatever
couldn't
TV
do
show
that to
that
me.
was, then I would know what it was actually like.
Streaming was kind of the biggest trick they ever pulled on us. Music,
Yeah.
movies, whatever, because it's all, you're paying monthly for something that you could have already owned and been listening to
Right.
all along. And then when they decide that they don't want to offer that to you anymore, you don't own it anymore.
I know, it's sad.
It is sad.
Do you think that well, of course, you own a record store, so I'm thinking yes. But there does seem to be kind of a push back to physical media. Would you agree? Or
Yeah, I mean, not everyone is rushing to adopt physical media, but there are people who...
Not the kids.
Oddly enough, the kids,
kids?
are it's this weird, it's kind of a weird split of...
Okay.
We've got kind of three main groups, and that would be kind of the younger generation who's getting into everything for the first time.
What's younger?
High school age, still in
Not
school.
us.
Let's
Okay.
say
Not us.
The
let's
you
say
when
12
you-
to
The
17. Exactly.
Yeah, the when you started.
The youth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well,
Yep.
and that's what we are trying to be there for.
Yeah.
But we have, those kids. We have the people from, more or less our generation. I'm guessing the more millennial-ish. 1 foot in the pre-internet, 1 foot in the dystopian future, and just trying to enjoy
And just
everything we
listening
can.
to 90s country to
Exactly.
Instead of
stay
going to
off
therapy.
yeah.
Exactly.
Going to therapy.
Records are so much cheaper than therapy.
And so
I don't know about that.
And
That might be
then-
a toss-up.
It depends on which records you're buying,
Right.
I
Yeah,
guess. But
yeah.
And then your third group, you'd say.
that is the first waivers, the guys who, they were there to see Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, or see, Kurt Cobain in his heyday or whatever. The guys who have been around, who never got rid of their record collections, who are looking to fill in the remaining holes, or replace the things that have been played to death or disappeared at, whatever parties or gatherings over the years.
Right.
Interesting.
Who is your favorite group to have in? Like, if you hear the door swing open.
Oh, man.
And what group of those three, like, they walk in and you're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, I couldn't even choose. And I'm so my attitude changes very, very easily.
Depends on your mood.
Exactly.
That's fair.
I love bringing younger kids into the space. I think music is important. Music was, fundamental to my youth and my life. And a big part of, my wife and I's decision to open this shop was to kind of use our experience to share with the community.
Yeah.
And it's hard growing up in a small town when there's not a lot to do.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Not to I know you're involved with radio, and radio has a great important place too, but when you're young, radio doesn't always necessarily speak to you.
Right, true.
And, we do our best to stay kind of in tune with what is going on in the music world, and, and have something for everyone, have something for them in particular, and just... Yeah.
No, and that's great, because that's a need that's definitely, that's a want that should be met here. Arts in general here was lacking for a while, and it seems like there's a big resurgence in the last 5 years plus. I mean, the art downtown has been here for some time, but we have Broad Strokes projects adding murals all over downtown and all over the community. The music scene has really increase, which I understand that you're a big part of. And I think that's huge because, our kids, they're really into youth sports, but not every kid is into sports or whatever that thing is. And so to have variety in our community, I think is a really big deal.
I mean, we want to support the kids and the other stuff too. We actually sponsored a youth soccer team this year for the first time too. We had Team Stash out there.
Team Stash. That's a good one too.
That's so cool.
Our team this year was Legally Blonde too, which is fine.
Cute.
And I'm so happy that Legally Blonde, shout out to them. They're in Castle Rock. That's a hairdresser, Legally Blonde, if you need your haircut. They sponsored my daughter's soccer team, but it was funny seeing them with Legally Blonde on the back of their jerseys.
That's awesome.
It was cute. Well, thank you for being a good community member and partner, because that is,
that's what Cowlitz County is all about, honestly.
Yes, and small businesses understand, it's all about mutual support. We're all mutually supporting everyone. Should be the goal.
Yes.
Okay, I'm about to ask you a hard-hitting question. Are you
go.
ready? That the Swifties say that Taylor had a big part in bringing back vinyl and making it cool again. Do you agree with that?
Whoa.
Was this a hard-hitting question?
That is
I have not
actually
heard this.
in the vinyl community, that is surprisingly divisive.
Okay. I knew it was hard-hitting.
So you've heard this before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have not heard
thing.
this. Okay.
It's a thing, Gabriella.
Taylor Swift is her own economy.
Yes. Literally.
She, regardless of what you think of her, or what I think of her, what anyone thinks of her.
She can grow your national GDP by 1% by hosting a concert there.
Absolutely, and she can, fundamentally change industries. And Taylor Swift collectors are collectors like we have probably never seen that I know of. I mean, nothing since
Scary.
Beatlemania.
No, I'm just kidding.
Wait, since
This
what?
is Beatlemania.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, when you start, I guess the only other comparable that I can think of is Kiss in the 70s and 80s, where everything is merchandised to the absolute maximum.
Yes.
And, good on her for realizing the opportunity and getting her money. But, I'm glad she's selling a ton of records. She's doing great things for vinyl. I don't know that we need 8 different versions with 1-track variants on each record before we get the eventual deluxe edition. I think the ploy to drain you of, $500 of your entertainment budget where it could have been $40 is a little diabolical, but at the same time...
But a diabolical genius?
It's absolutely.
She definitely is the queen of Easter eggs and kind of stringing people along for the next thing
Breadcrumbing.
Oh yes, yes.
At the end
They
of the
just
day-
can't get enough.
Yeah.
Certainly, and at the end of the day, people are going to spend their money on what makes them happy, and Taylor Swift is making people happy.
That's true.
And so
There's
we
worse things that can
sell
make you
Taylor
happy?
Swift records, but Taylor Swift sells a lot of Taylor Swift records.
Yeah,
So she doesn't leave as much market for the independent record community as Sony, Universal, and the rest of her executive arms might like the world to think.
So, a question. Does every album come out? Can you get any and all albums on vinyl?
Any song.
Or is it really the artist, their backing, their record company has to decide what's going on vinyl and what's not?
Great question.
We try to go to pretty great lengths to get things that that are both popular through major labels and that are a little bit less accessible that support independent artists.
Like, could I listen to Justin Bieber on vinyl?
I don't
if I wanted
have any,
to.
but I bet you I could order you some Justin Bieber on
Well,
vinyl.
I would have
guess
to
just
get
any,
a record first.
Like,
a
could
record
almost
player first.
any song almost printed on vinyl, I think is Katie's question.
Yeah, and so that is again kind of a complex one. If they're signed to a major label these days, almost certainly if it hasn't gotten a vinyl release, it will eventually.
Okay.
Good to know.
But there's so much independent music being made and so many independent labels. There are so many artists that are digital only, whether that is by nature of their resources or the labels they're on being digital only, or just not
Or
not
marketing,
having,
honestly.
could be marketing, could be they're whether or not they care about physical media. Some artists prefer to sell direct through Bandcamp.
Okay.
Or a number of other their websites or
streaming and
streaming whatever, and that's great. People should support the artists they love wherever those artists are. But when they do that, we don't always have access to bring those things in without having to to keep the lights on. We have to make money on those things, and I would much rather tell you, if that record is available through your artist for $20, go get it from your artist for $20 and then bring the extra 5 or 10 I would have had to charge you and get extra stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do people make CDs anymore?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't deal as much in new CDs. We've kind of been dabbling in them, by request here and there. Major artists like Taylor Swift, like we've got Sabrina Carpenter CDs
I'm
landed
obsessed
next week.
with
So
Sabrina
yeah.
Carpenter.
Obsessed.
I'm her number one.
Yeah, I think Tayller's maybe
like-
needing to watch her back in the next couple of years.
Well,
between
she created Sabrina, so.
It's arguable, but yeah. I don't know. My daughter is a giant Girl Meets World fan, so
true.
we are pre
You've been
Tay.
a long time.
Oh yeah,
fans
we're
of
day
Sabrina.
one.
Are you so happy for her? Because I'm so happy
I
for her.
could not be happier for her.
Okay,
She's
but we're gonna have a
fantastic.
conversation about her offline that I had with Gabby recently.
I can't wait for this.
a conversation about Sabrina Carpenter offline.
All right.
Are CDs the only retro? Well, I guess the newer retro media that is being put out. I mean, do they print? Do they
Make tapes?
Do they record cassette
Cassettes
tapes?
are having a massive resurgence in the indie scene. in
Very
particular.
Like a mixtape. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, the mixtapes are
Right,
definitely a big part of the appeal to that.
What about 8-tracks?
8-tracks are
niche. They're
They're
niche.
very niche.
They are niche beyond niche. There are places that you can get them selectively. There are independent craft manufacturers that, if you want, I think I saw one of the ones that we follow just did a 4-volume Metallica's first 4 albums on 8-track box set.
Interesting.
But it wasn't even something that you could order. It was a custom for somebody, and they don't make blank 8-tracks anymore, so he has to find them to repurpose that are
Wow.
the right. It is such massively weirdly detailed stuff.
As an anthropology major,
You better get into 8-tracks.
No.
Yeah.
the reason 8-tracks are going to have a really hard time coming back is because they were not nearly as ubiquitous as the rest. And so it's hard to collect, where it's
Yes.
there are so many records and so many CDs and so many cassettes that it's easy for it to come back up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
If
that's
you
my
want to
take.
meet the ultimate niche collectors, though,
They're 8-trackers.
not just 8-trackers, quadraphonic 8-trackers.
What is that?
So there is monophonic, which is both of your stereos playing identical
Okay.
sounds. There's stereophonic, where you have a left channel and a right channel that play complementary to create your full sound. And then in the early 70s, they created quadraphonic mixing,
Oh, snap.
or at least introduced to the mass market quadraphonic mixing, which was not hugely successful because it requires extremely elaborate layouts.
And you have to be standing in the perfect spot.
You have to really be more or less centered in your room.
Yeah.
If you want a weird rabbit hole, go look up quadraphonic sound setups, and it's
I love a weird rabbit hole.
It's fantastic and such a gigantic
Because she's an
waste of money,
anthropology
in my
major.
opinion. It's
true.
but quadraphonic 8-tracks were great for car players
Because-
you naturally have
Yes.
the 4
Yes.
speaker layout.
Okay.
And 8-tracks were ubiquitous for car audio before cassettes.
Yes.
So
Right.
you have these guys that came up audiophiles-ish in the 70s that now hunt down the rarest of the rare. Dark Side of the Moon on quadraphonic 8-track is a $200 tape, $150 tape.
So if you
because
have a
they
music
made it
lover in your
for-
life, Christmas challenge accepted.
It's one of the most popular albums ever recorded, but they made that version for probably less than a year, and most of them died in hot barns. 8-tracks don't store well.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
that's
another part
another-
of it. There you go.
We're just combing, we're peeling
Yep.
back the layers.
Yep.
We've ended up way down the rabbit hole. This
Yeah.
is fun.
Well, this is fun.
I've
right?
learned so much.
No, seriously, because
Okay, I have another random question. Little records. What are those called?
7 inches, 45 RPMs, or singles.
I think I've heard them called 45s.
that's what
45s,
yeah,
yeah.
singles,
Okay.
because it was just like here's one song on one side, one song on the
Yeah.
other. There you go. That's
Oh,
little.
that's what it is. I thought it was more so the difference of when they were made. Like maybe one was older than the other.
So singles technically were kind of this initially like the first bridge from shellac 78 RPM records to the modern LP.
Okay.
Okay.
They came first, but not by a whole lot.
Okay.
Kind of like 8-tracks to tapes or cassette tapes. But they kept their usefulness in a way that 8-tracks did not.
Okay.
They stored better.
The cream rises to the top.
Right, and the main appeal that they had was they did not require a full new player when you transition from the singles
Right.
to
That makes sense.
the
That makes
LPs.
all the difference.
Okay, I think it's time to extricate ourselves from the rabbit hole slightly. And yeah, Wayne, please have that be it.
That's like your symbol to us. Get on track, ladies.
Ooh. Okay, so we're going to crawl back out of the rabbit hole and talk a little bit more about you and about what you're doing, because I do hear you have a lot of fun stuff coming up in August.
Yes.
So we're recording this, first part of July time, yada yada. It's coming up pretty quick. You have some fun events going on. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so July is going to be, we'll obviously be around and doing
Business
our
as
thing.
usual.
But not as event-filled. Come August, first weekend of August, we'll be doing the Dark Market over at Erebus.
Fun.
Full weekend of just fun music and movies and just odd stuff.
The Dark Market,
yeah,
offbeat antiques and oddities will be there.
Love
They'll
it.
bring the odd stuff. And
Yeah,
I'm sure there will be good food and all kinds of things.
There's,
I hear the pizza down there is really good.
Yeah, at
I
Erebus.
haven't tried
my
it,
God,
but I've
Papazuzu,
heard it's so good.
They're
Well,
doing
and
great things.
You said it was the first weekend of August, so that would be August 3rd and 4th.
You got it.
Saturday and Sunday.
And Erebus is in South Kelso.
Okay, I have not
Yes.
gone there yet.
Yes.
Oh, they are fantastic for live music. But even if you're not going for the music, their kitchen, their bar, both great.
Is it family friendly?
My understanding is they are kind of transitioning to a little bit more of that. In the past, they were a 21 and over establishment. They've recently hosted some all ages events, though. Always good to see that broadening in the community, like we were talking about. It's just good to see places for kids to spend time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, where communities can congregate together, all different types of people.
Yeah, and you said you're bringing some stuff out of the vault for that.
So
what does that mean?
That will likely be for the following weekend.
Okay, tell us about that. So we have the Dark Market, 3rd and 4th of August down at Erebus, and you'll be one of the vendors there.
We will be there.
Okay,
Yep.
and then the following week,
Which is like the 10th and 11th, I think.
I don't know.
Yep, that would be
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
10th and 11th. Although, so that whole week will be we're celebrating our 4-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Technically-
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Technically falls on the 8th. We're having live music with some good friends of the shop. another very important figure in the local music scene, Eric Nordine, with his project Porch Kiss, along with VHS Ghost. I believe he's currently based out of Portland.
Cool name.
Such a cool name.
Yeah, such cool music. You guys should definitely turn up for that one.
Okay.
That'll be Thursday, August 8th.
We should go.
We should.
Okay.
And then that Saturday, I will be breaking out some crazy stuff that we've been saving up for the event.
Can we have a hint?
You know what? You can have a full exclusive. Actually, I'll give you some of the best of the best. How about a UK import 1994 first press Radiohead, the Bends?
That sounds really impressive.
How about first pressing of Metallica's first record on Megaforce Records, along with their subsequent 3 records. All but one of those is a true first press. Ride the Lightning's a first Elektra press. They switched to a major label. So we don't have the Megaforce, but it's still a rare record. We have a 80s Pink Floyd retrospective box set. Original press of Tacoma Legends, the Sonics Boom.
Okay.
One of the most important garage rock records ever recorded, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise.
So don't be showing up to argue about that. Okay,
I will tolerate no Sonic slander.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is in celebration of your 4th anniversary of the shop. That's, of course, Stash Records on Commerce and Longview.
And that's going to be on the 8th, right?
So the music will be on the 8th. The Vault records come out on Saturday. The idea with that is, frankly, we love our local community, and we're going to have great sales for everybody all week long. But the record world is a very big world, and we want to give a chance for all of our friends, not just here, but in Portland, in Seattle, in Spokane, in all over, wherever they're looking for these records, give them a chance to drive up and get a crack at them, because
Nice.
Most shops will tell you you don't get a chance to buy a copy of most of these records every day. Sometimes the access is more important than the price.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you get to a certain level of rarity. And that's
Right.
I'm not saying these are, records that you're gonna have to sell out your retirement for. They're not cheap records, but they're
Tyler,
Yeah.
you're a business owner. We understand.
Yeah,
you
we
do
understand.
not have to. You do not have to explain to us.
No.
You're a business owner.
No, plus what it sounds like is if you are somebody that is trying to collect some of these really rare records, Tyler's your guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
We got a guy.
I mean, that weekend
got a guy.
is the weekend. Like I said, it's the access for these things is what doesn't happen.
Right.
It's, we are there 52 weeks a year. We are always going to be there with something cool, but we are not always going to have first press Metallica and first press Radiohead and factory sealed stuff from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, this is so great. We're talking about this, that you're doing it, and this is exactly what small businesses should be doing because it builds up the entire area.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hopefully people that are coming specifically to shop your store will also walk around downtown, get something to eat, go into Offbeat Antiques, go into some of the thrift stores.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And check everything out. So it's actually very exciting for Downtown Longview.
Right. The more people that can realize that we are just a really great community and have lots to offer, the more people will shop downtown.
If you're looking to thrift while you're in town, like we were talking about, is pretty much all of Commerce.
Yeah.
Head south and hit everything.
Amazing coffee, almost
especially-
everywhere you look.
Amazing coffee, yeah.
Yes.
Chocolate. Storyboard Delights.
So
Oh my
true.
God.
Yeah.
I did see they are under new ownership.
But she was their original baker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so
it's,
she was there from the beginning. So I think
yeah.
they're in safe hands. We're actually planning on having her on.
I can't wait
Semi-soon.
to hear from her. I'm almost sure we have met, but I I couldn't say for certain.
Well, we haven't met her yet, so it'll be another episode like this where
Yes.
we're truly going in kind of blind.
Well, I wish her nothing but success. I love the business that she helped build, and so happy to see her carrying the torch, and glad we are not, losing them here as their original founders move on to their next thing.
I agree.
Agreed.
I agree.
But I mean, they're just one of 100 gems that we've got down here.
So true.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of leading us into our wrap up. We heard some of your favorites, which we always ask people what their favorites are. Another question is, do you have any recommendations for who we should talk to next?
Oh my gosh.
Put you on the spot.
I know, and I'm like, man, I probably should have talked to some people.
Fine.
Honestly, okay, you want to talk just favorite local businesses, our kind of birthday buddies, if you will, opened on the exact same day in the middle of a pandemic, like a bunch of crazy people. Tapped Roots, Jesse and Melissa,
Okay.
around the corner, on Broadway, right off Commerce.
Yeah.
Best curated tap list in town. Great food, great environment, great music.
Cheers.
I forget which day he does it. That's all the more reason to have him on. But weekly clam chowder house made that is.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, you just got to get there early enough to actually get it before
Honestly,
everybody else
this
gets
is
it.
something that has not hit my radar. So
Me
I
either.
am so happy to be talking about it. And you said what were their names?
Jesse and Mel
Okay.
are the owners over there.
And it's Tapped
Roots.
Roots.
Okay. We will be making a trip
Should have
over
been
there.
more prepared.
We are.
with
No, that was
address and
perfect.
everything,
No,
but
you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People can Google.
Go,
It's fine.
Go drink their beer. Jesse will put you onto something you love for sure. They've got cans to go. Yeah, they curate some incredible stuff.
Amazing.
And he loves what he does, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so we know that people can shop your store in person, which, by the way, did you pick the color of your exterior? Because I'm obsessed.
I do love it.
Yeah.
So the exterior was a little bit of a compromise, and I'm happy with how it ended up. We were going for something a little bit darker to match the logo, and the landlord, for some reason, didn't want to paint all of Commerce black, which I guess I get, but.
I love the color.
I do too.
Now, color-wise, what I do really love, even more than the exterior color, is the interior color.
Okay.
That is like one of those weird, fateful things that is part of the reason that we now have a record store on Commerce.
It was already painted when you walked in?
It was, so before we moved in, a paint and sip place had already been there. I think they're actually over in the mall still.
Oh, okay, yes,
Okay,
I've been there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So they were there before we were there.
Okay.
They did all the hard work, painted those vaulted walls, and the color just screams record store. And my wife and I came up to look at a different space a few doors down, parked in front of that one, and pretty much...
You're like, no, I want this
We'll go
one.
through the motions with the other one, but this hadn't been in it, but it was the space. It looked like a record store.
Oh, I love
Awesome.
that.
I love that too. Okay, so love the color of the store. Definitely stands out. If someone wants to shop at the store, of course they can do so when you are open. What days of the week?
We are there Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 7 p.m. 11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Good hours.
Thank you.
Very good, hours. You're open after people get off work.
Yes.
Yeah, and we find we are one of the few places open on
It
Commerce
drives us crazy, but
at that time.
We're trying to get others to do the same.
But I get it. I mean, it's hard to own a business, and you have a lot of juggling. So no hate to the people that close a little earlier, but great hours.
But if you are downtown having dinner, having drinks, whatever, and it is 6:30 and you're still looking for something to do, come say hi.
So do you also sell online?
Here and there. It's truly not my preferred way to do it. I am a little weirdly old school about it. I think I you should be able to appreciate it as an anthropology major.
Absolutely.
I feel like these
love
things have
the
lived.
recognition I'm getting over this.
This is gonna catch the anthropology major.
Oh, I
thing.
say it every episode, so.
But it's these artifacts, if you will, have lived their entire lives in the Northwest.
Right.
Why do I want to send that to Europe? Why do I want to send that to California or Florida or wherever?
Yeah.
When, like, I have a single, 45 in my case, that was recorded in the late 60s by a Longview family band that had a radio show here in town.
Oh,
The Country
adorable.
Bugs.
The Country Bugs.
I am told that
Who's the family?
I would have to look it up, but I
Okay.
am told supposedly that the little brother drummer, who must have been 7 or 8 at the time, went on to play with a group called Eagles of Death Metal, either as a touring or session musician.
Okay. I'll ask.
Look this up.
Somebody please fact check me
Yeah,
on this,
okay.
because I
I
need
know
to
who
know
to
if this
ask.
is like actually
I have
true.
got the guy to ask. So, one of my old coworkers at the radio station, his name is Phil Rogers. I'm obsessed. Everyone knows. Phil's the best. He worked in radio. He graduated from WSU with his degree in radio, whatever. Can't think of the word. That's fine.
Broadcasting?
Yes. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. And then he's from the area. He moved here and he worked at our local radio stations from the time he started working till he retired. He knows everything.
Ooh,
gonna
this is going
ask
to be a
him.
fun
Important.
local
You
factoid.
would be obsessed with him. I'm going to
We should
contact
send
him.
him
need
to
to
your
meet.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hang out.
Yeah, Phil's the best. Shout out to Phil.
All right.
Okay, great. So go on into the store. That is
Yes.
the main takeaway. Also, if you want to check out Stash Records, going to the dark market is a great way to get introduced to them, as well as other local vendors, local businesses. Check out a cool local spot. We will have to have you back on at some point. I feel like we could talk so much longer. I want to hear
Yes.
about the live music you're bringing into town. So we're going to table that for now, just for the timing, but we'll have to have you back on again in the future.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on your 4th
Yes.
anniversary.
Thank you so much.
That is a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
Owning a business is really hard.
It is. And thank you for adding so much value to our downtown.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, so for the novices, when it comes to vinyl, if you want to check out the store or if you want to go to the dark market, that's a great way to get started. For those real collectors, you need to get in there on Saturday, the second Saturday.
The second Saturday of August. We believe it's the 10th.
No, he's pulling out the
I'm gonna
phone.
get the
We're
date
making
right
sure
now. We're
this is
gonna-
We're
correct.
making sure it's right.
Yeah, so August 10th is going to be the big day, but
Okay.
there's plenty of cool stuff in there between now and then. We're putting out awesome stuff every week, almost every day. If you want to follow along, if you want to see what's happening, we're on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Stash Records NW. Like I said, posting new vinyl, new CDs, new movies, and just what we're generally up to all the time.
Yes.
Awesome.
I love it. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsors who make it possible for us to do this
Yes.
and make it possible for us to have a Wayne, who we love. And that is, of course, Mattress Superstore and ServPro Longview Kelso. Thank you so much for connecting with us today. And thank you, Tyler, so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.